The door slammed open, and my heart stopped. Dad's eyes burned, his shout tearing through the room as I stood there, miniskirt too short, blouse too revealing, heels wobbling under me. Lipstick smeared from my trembling hand. I froze, caught in the act of becoming someone they didn't know. Mom's smirk sliced from the doorway, her voice dripping venom. "Well, look at you!" Shame choked me, but I couldn't look away, trapped in their disgust. Still too young to break free, and the secret I'd guarded was now a weapon they'd wield against me. My parents had never been warm, their affection as scarce as sunlight in winter. They provided food, shelter, doctor's visits, but beyond the basics, I was a stranger in their orbit. They didn't care about my dreams or fears, their disinterest a wall I couldn't breach. But that day, when they caught me, the fracture in our family deepened into a chasm. My dad stopped inviting me to toss a ball or fix the car. Our conversations reduced to barbed references to that dress. My mom, meanwhile, turned it into a mockery of care, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she offered to braid my hair or suggested ribbons and jewelry, each word a needle meant to prick. The wedge between us grew, unyielding, and I was powerless to stop it. For my birthday, they doubled down. Dad handed me a curling iron, his eyes cold with challenge, while Mom gifted me a nightgown, her smile a blade. My younger sister, Piper, giggled as I unwrapped the packages, her laughter a fresh wound. The house became a minefield of remarks, each one driving me further into myself. My parents clung to rigid beliefs, their world divided into those who belonged people of their class and everyone else. To them, my secret was a betrayal, a bomb detonating their carefully curated order. I'd always known discovery would be catastrophic, but the pull to be myself was stronger than fear. My body, hairless and slight, had been a source of ridicule in gym class, but it was a quiet gift when I slipped into the clothes that felt like home. I wasn't big or imposing, just average, but in those moments, I was whole. Loneliness had been my companion long before that day. My parents demanded academic excellence, but offered no guidance, leaving me to navigate school alone. Dad sold auto parts, always on the road, while Mom buried herself in charity committees, her social calendar a fortress against family. I had hours to myself, time I spent exploring who I could be until I was caught. After that, Mom made a point of being home when I was, her presence a surveillance I couldn't shake. They retreated further, treating me like a ghost in their midst, discussing plans as if I couldn't hear. But I was no fool. An all-A student, I noticed things like the stacks of cash Dad started hiding in his desk, furtive and excessive. Mom's sudden spending spree, new furniture, a sleek car, redecorated rooms confirmed my suspicions. Kickbacks, I thought, the word heavy in my mind. I said nothing, but the knowledge burned. Months passed, and their guard slipped. Dad grew careless, leaving cash in plain sight, stuffed into drawers like dirty laundry. Halfway through my final year of high school, I felt the pull of a future I desperately held on to. I applied to colleges, dreaming of escape. My parents promised to cover tuition, but made it clear I'd handle everything else: gas, insurance, life. Their message was stark. I was on my own. Graduation day brought a check from Mom, a gesture that felt like a reluctant concession, and the news they were moving to California, leaving me behind. The amount on the check was enough to soften the blow, but not enough to heal. 2 days later, I packed my car, every skirt, every pair of heels, every tube of lipstick, and drove to college without a backward glance. Freedom tasted sharp, like biting into a fresh apple. Away from their judgment, I could breathe. The clothes I'd hidden for so long became my armor, each piece a declaration of who I was. I knew what I wanted, and it would rattle anyone who thought they knew me. But I was done hiding. The world I was building, one stitch, one choice at a time, was mine, and I was ready to shock them all. The campus buzzed with the restless energy of new beginnings, but I craved a space of my own, a sanctuary where I could be Harper without fear. Weeks into my arrival, I found a small apartment just off campus, its chipped paint and creaky floors a small price to pay for freedom. Years of hoarding every dollar I'd earned had left me with enough to settle in comfortably. And if I played my cards right, I could even expand my wardrobe, a prospect that sent a thrill through me. With 2 months before classes, I had time to build the life I'd dreamed of. Slipping back into Harper felt like coming home, but stepping out into the world as her was a leap I hadn't taken since that fateful day at home. Fear gnawed at me, but necessity pushed harder. I needed a job, a way to sustain this new life, so I steeled myself and applied at a local store, presenting as Harper with every ounce of courage I could muster. The woman who hired me, Logan, had a quiet intensity, her eyes sharp but not unkind. I was certain she saw through me, knew I wasn't born a girl, but she didn't hesitate. My role was behind the scenes, filling orders and tracking shipments, invisible to the public. It was a relief, a soft landing into this uncharted world. I started that day, learning the rhythm of the stockroom, the weight of boxes, the hum of the scanner. Logan, about my mother's age, spoke softly, but with a directness that cut through pretense. 2 days in, she found me in the cramped office, her presence filling the space. "Harper," she said, her tone firm yet curious. "I'm sure you have your reasons for this, and I don't care how you dress, but I need to know what's going on. Is this just for the summer, or are you staying this way? I need to adjust payroll if you're sticking around as Harper. Care to fill me in?" I sank into my chair, my gaze flickering up to meet hers. She had every right to ask, and I owed her honesty. "I want to become a girl someday," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "I'm starting now. If it's a problem, I can opt." "Don't," Logan cut in, her voice sharp. "I can't stand quitters, Harper. Either you're committed to this or you're not. I don't care which. But don't assume I'll kick you out before I've made up my mind." She pulled up a chair, leveling her eyes with mine, her posture open but unyielding. "I know a thing or two about boys who want to be girls. I've got no issue with you working here as Harper. I just need to know how far you're planning to go. Surgery? The whole deal?" I nodded, hesitant. "Eventually, yes, but not until I handle something first. For now, I'll go as far as I can without it." "Handle what?" Logan pressed, her brow furrowing. "Settle a score," I said before I could stop myself, the words spilling out with a bitter edge. "Make things right." "Your parents?" she asked, her voice softening as if she already knew. "My parents," I confirmed, a scowl twisting my lips. "They don't get it. After how they treated me, I owe them a lesson." Logan leaned back, her expression a mix of concern and caution. "Anger's a heavy load, Harper. It can eat you alive, and revenge, it's a hollow prize. Is that really what you're after?" "Not revenge," I said, a sly grin creeping in. "Retribution. There's a difference." I paused, the weight of years pressing against my ribs. They ignored me my whole life. When they found out about this, they shut me out completely. Beyond food and a roof, I was on my own. Mom hovered, making sure I didn't dress up. But Dad? He's the one who needs to learn. And I'm going to teach him. "By becoming a girl?" Logan asked, her tone skeptical. "No," I said, my voice firm. "That's for me. Always has been. What I have planned for him is bigger, more personal. They don't know me, don't care to. When I left for college, they told me I was on my own, packed up for California, and didn't even leave an address. Why should I care what they think?" Logan's eyes softened, a flicker of sadness passing through them. "That sounds lonely," she said quietly. "But if that's how it is, are you planning to attend college as Harper?" I enrolled with my initials and checked female on the form, I said, a hint of pride in my voice. Mom signed it without even reading it. Didn't notice a thing. The memory stung, her carelessness a final confirmation of her indifference. Logan handed me some forms to sign, her movements brisk, then left the office without another word. Her comment about knowing boys who want to be girls lingered, a mystery I wanted to unravel, but I held back. She'd hired me, accepted me as Harper, and that was enough for now. I wasn't sure what to make of her, but her quiet support felt like a lifeline. In the days that followed, I settled into a rhythm. Work kept me busy, and each day, as Harper bolstered my confidence. I'd worn every piece of clothing I owned, cycling through skirts and blouses, but the urge to expand my wardrobe grew. With a paycheck in hand, I ventured to a local mart, my heart pounding as I browsed racks of clothes. I picked out new skirts, a few tops, a pair of jeans that hugged my frame just right, and after a moment's hesitation, more panties and 2 bras. A pair of flats caught my eye, simple but versatile, and I added them to my haul. As I stood at the checkout, the cashier's casual smile felt like a small victory. I was Harper, and I was building her world, one choice at a time. That night, I folded away the last of my boy clothes, sealing them in a box I vowed never to open again. Harper was no longer a secret to be hidden. She was me, and I was ready to live as her fully. As I clipped tags from my new purchases and hung them in the closet, Logan's words about anger and revenge echoed in my mind. But the fire of anger had long since cooled, replaced by a colder truth. My parents had never truly cared. Not once in my life had they shown me the warmth of family, leaving me to fend for myself in a house that felt more like a prison. Sipping a soda in the quiet of my apartment, I turned inward, dissecting my plan. Could I really do it? Mom, complicit in spending Dad's dirty money, deserved a shock. But Dad, he was the one I'd bring down. I didn't know the how or when, but I swore I'd be there when it happened, standing tall as a woman, my presence a blade to his pride. Work with Logan became a steady rhythm, each day easing me further into myself. I no longer had to think about how to move or speak, as Harper it came naturally, my confidence blooming like a flower in sunlight. When classes started, I juggled school and night shifts at the store, my focus laser-sharp on grades and work. Dating wasn't on my radar, and the solitude suited me. I watched classmates scatter for the holidays, their laughter fading as they headed home to families who welcomed them. I stayed behind, working or holed up in my apartment, but I didn't waste the time. One night, driven by a reckless determination, I slipped into the campus medical building. Heart pounding, I broke into the drug storage and took what I needed enough pills to last years. In my twisted focus, the risks didn't matter. My goal justified everything. I started the hormones that night, following a schedule I'd found online. My body a canvas I was reshaping to match my soul. Weeks passed before the theft was noticed, but by then, subtle changes had begun. By May, my chest had blossomed, letting me abandon the makeshift birdseed forms. Instead of splurging on new bras, I padded the ones I owned, the difference invisible to anyone else. As spring melted into summer and I shifted to full-time work, my body mirrored that of a typical young woman, save for one persistent detail. I hadn't heard from my parents all year, their silence a confirmation of their indifference, so the email from Mom caught me off guard. She was coming to town, wanted to meet. My pulse quickened, not with hope, but with opportunity. I knew her feelings about me, about Harper, but this was a chance I couldn't ignore. I replied quickly, suggesting a popular local restaurant, then headed out to shop. I hadn't planned to confront her so soon, but the moment felt right, and I spent freely, curating an outfit that would leave no doubt who I was. The day of the meeting, I called Logan for a day off and sank into a long bubble bath, the warm water soothing my nerves. As I shaved every inch of my body, my nipples peeked through the bubbles, and a giggle escaped me. Mom was about to meet the daughter she'd never wanted. I had until 2 o'clock, plenty of time to prepare. At my vanity, I took my time with my makeup, lining my green eyes with soft brown, blending pale plum, copper, and a whisper of blue shadow, then coating my lashes in deep black mascara. A touch of plum-toned blush sharpened my cheekbones, and when I smiled at my reflection, I felt unstoppable. A spritz of perfume, delicate and floral, sealed the moment. In my bedroom, I started with a satin thong, its black lace a bold contrast against my skin, then laced myself into a black bustier with a built-in push-up bra. Tugging the laces tight, I cinched my waist to a trim 25 inches, my cleavage deep and undeniably feminine. I rolled on tan hose, fastening the garters with care, then lifted the dress from its hanger. I'd chosen red, a short, low-cut sheath that hugged my frame without clinging, its vibrant hue a declaration of confidence. Zipping it up, I stepped into black heels, the click of them grounding me. I added red and gold earrings, swiped on lipstick that matched the dress, and stood before the mirror. The woman staring back was Harper, unapologetic and ready. Mom wouldn't just see me, she'd feel the weight of who I'd become. My auburn hair, once a short, unremarkable brown, now cascaded in shimmering waves, framing my face like a halo. I brushed my bangs into place, checked the clock, and grabbed my purse, the weight of the moment settling over me as I left to meet my mother. A part of me wanted her to be so stunned she'd collapse, but I knew better. Mom was too composed for that. More likely, she wouldn't recognize me, and when I revealed myself, she'd retreat, as she always had. I'd made the reservation myself, and as I sat in the restaurant's parking lot, I watched her stride inside, her posture as rigid as ever. I waited a few beats, steadying my breath, then stepped out. My hips swayed naturally, my manicured nails and vibrant makeup accentuating the curves I'd worked so hard to claim. A smile tugged at my lips as I entered, the click of my heels a quiet anthem. Mom's eyes scanned the door, but no flicker of recognition crossed her face, even as I wove through the tables to stand beside her. I slid into the seat across from her, my perfume settling like a soft challenge. "I'm sorry, dear," she said, her voice polite but distant. "I'm waiting for my, oh my God." "Skylar, mother?" I said, my smile sharp. "Yes, it's me. I've changed a bit. My name, in case you care at all, is Harper." Her face drained of color, her lips parting, but no words coming. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Since we both know you don't care, why don't you pretend I never told you?" I paused, letting the silence stretch. "What's wrong, Mother? Is my dress too much? My hair? Am I not pretty enough for you?" I was baiting her, each word a deliberate prod, and her silence only fueled me. I opened my mouth to press further when she finally spoke, her voice faltering. "Ellis? Harper, we..." She sighed, her composure cracking. "I should have known this would happen. I told your father we should have taken you with us. Maybe then you wouldn't..." "Taken me?" I cut in, bitterness lacing my words. "I wasn't going anywhere with him, and you should have known that. Staying with you, enduring your endless jabs, wasn't an option either. I came here to make one thing clear. I'm in charge of my life now, not you, and I'm becoming the girl I was always meant to be." She studied me, her eyes lingering on the dress, the curves it hugged. "You've succeeded," she said, her tone sharper now. "Tell me, Harper, do you hate us that much?" "Hate doesn't cover it," I replied, keeping my voice light but firm. "Disdain is closer. My whole life, you ignored me. Never showed up to a single school event, not one award ceremony. You fed me, housed me, but I was nothing more than a pet to you and Dad. Did you think I'd stay your obedient dog after you cut me loose? You didn't even give me your new address. So tell me, Mother, what did you expect when you sent that email?" "I see," she said, her voice heavy with something like regret. She leaned back, her fingers tightening around her glass. "You're beautiful, Harper, and those..." Her gaze dropped to my chest. "They're real, or you wouldn't wear a dress like that. You're making a point, and you've made it. But I came to tell you your father's in jail." "When?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "How?" "Did you know about it?" she pressed, her eyes narrowing. "I'm not stupid," I snapped. "I knew about the kickbacks before you left me. How could I not? Dad shoving cash in his desk while I stood there, you buying things we couldn't afford. How could I miss it? The only time you noticed me was to mock me, to tear me down. Otherwise, I was invisible, and you got sloppy. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, locking eyes with her. How long did he get? 7 years, she said, her face grim. In a miserable prison. It's awful. Poor Daddy, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. He gets to learn what it's like. I'm heartbroken. You don't care, she said, more statement than question. Not one bit, I shot back. And you? What about you? You didn't want me before, especially not like this. Now that Dad's locked up, what's changed? Planning to stick around and ruin my life again, like you did before? My anger surged, heat rising to my cheeks, my face flushing red. Mom's eyes softened, but I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. The girl in the red dress wasn't here to forgive, she was here to be seen, to be undeniable. And I was just getting started. My voice cut through the tension, sharp and unyielding. What is it, Mother? You think I can trust you now? After everything, how could I possibly believe in you? Her eyes glistened. Seconds ago, tears spilling as she stammered. I thought we could start over. I see now how much I hurt you. I had no idea you felt so strongly about becoming a woman. I didn't know. Her sobs grew louder, raw and desperate. I need you, Harper. You didn't ask, I said, my tone cold. You and Dad assumed I was a freak? A mistake? Both? If you'd cared, you would have shown up to something, anything. My class presidency? The scholastic medal I won? But no, you stayed home or went out, leaving me alone. Now I've built a life without you, and frankly, I don't need your cruel remarks. I can't think of one reason to care about what you want. Please, she cried, her voice breaking, lips trembling. Let me make it up to you. We can start fresh, you and me. I'll never see your father again. He'll rot in that prison. I don't want to be alone. Her sobbing drew the waiter's attention, but I waved him off, letting her tears fall, just as mine had so many nights alone. Harper, she pleaded, reaching for my hand. Don't push me away. I need you. I'll be the mother you always wanted, I swear. Her hand was warm over mine, her words a fragile thread of hope. I wanted to walk away, to leave her in the wreckage of her own making, but something held me a flicker of the girl who'd once longed for her love. Maybe it was the memory of that check, the one gesture that had made me wonder if she cared, deep down. She sat there, facing her son who'd become her daughter, begging for a chance. I didn't trust her, not fully, but a small crack in my resolve let in a sliver of possibility. One chance. That was all I'd give her. All right, Mother, I said slowly, testing the words. What did you have in mind? She wiped her eyes, voice tentative. I thought we could spend time together. Maybe a small vacation? I have a job, I said firmly. Logan's been good to me, more like a mother than you ever were. I won't leave her in the lurch, but maybe I can get a few days, a long weekend. The jab landed, her face tightening with hurt, exactly as I'd intended. I'd give her this chance, a rope to prove herself or hang herself with, but I wouldn't betray Logan's kindness. If my being Harper bothered Mom, she'd have to get over it fast. I wasn't changing, not now, not ever. I loved everything about being a girl, from the clothes to the rituals I'd adopted, like wearing a tampon for 5 days each month. It wasn't the usual way, but it made me feel undeniably feminine, a quiet affirmation of who I was. I studied her, realizing I held power I'd never had before, the power to demand, to shape this moment. Where are you staying? I asked. A small hotel nearby, she said quickly. I wanted to talk before finding something permanent. And the old house? I pressed, knowing they still owned it. Rent it out, she replied. 7-year lease, option to buy. I handed her my number. Call me tonight. Then I stood, hips swaying with purpose, and walked out, leaving her alone at the table. My plans to hurt her had shifted, derailed by her sudden appearance, but I'd struck hard, and I knew it. Her opinion of my life meant nothing to me. Still, if she could accept me as Harper, truly see me, I might find a way to meet her halfway, to build something fragile, teetering on the edge of collapse, but real. For the first time, I felt the weight of possibility, and it was mine to wield. My father's fate was sealed in that wretched prison, a place I knew I'd never see him emerge from, not that I cared to. If he somehow clawed his way out, it wouldn't change a thing. I wasn't proud of how I'd laid into Mom, unloading a lifetime of pain at that restaurant table. It hadn't lifted the weight from my chest, only left it heavier, jagged. After years of being invisible to her, I wasn't about to fling open my arms and pretend the past didn't exist. I needed perspective, someone to ground me. So I went to Logan and poured out everything my parents neglect. The cruelty after they caught me, my confrontation with Mom. Her eyes glistened as I spoke, a grim set to her jaw at times. But when I finished, a slow smile spread across her face. I hadn't cried, not once, but relief washed over me, like exhaling after holding my breath too long. "The next move's hers," Logan said, her voice steady. "She wanted to see you, and you went, but you made sure she felt the sting of your truth. Now it's her turn to step up or walk away. What do you think she'll do?" I shrugged, uncertain. "She knows I meant every word." Logan tilted her head, her gaze softening. "You told her I was like a mother to you?" I nodded, and she chuckled. "That's high praise, Harper, but I bet that cut her deeper than anything else." "It was supposed to," I admitted, unapologetic. She took my hand, her grip firm. "She's still your mother. Give her a chance, all right? Just one." I promised I would, and headed home, my nerves taut as a wire. To unwind, I slipped out of my dress, trading it for shorts and a loose top, no bra, and sank onto the couch. The TV flickered on, and the world I knew shattered. A solemn commentator narrated scenes of unthinkable horror, people leaping from dizzying heights to certain death, firefighters and police charging into a blazing inferno, dodging debris. When the second tower was hit, broadcast live in vivid color, my breath caught. The towers burned like twin torches, then crumbled, the first collapsing in a roar of pulverized concrete, the second following in a choking cloud of dust that blanketed the city. Tears streamed down my face, unbidden, as the scope of the carnage sank in. Logan called, her voice tight. Her brother worked in one of the towers, and she was closing the store to search for him. Moments later, Mom's name flashed on my phone. Numb with grief, I gave her directions to my apartment without hesitation. Within half an hour, we sat side by side, eyes glued to the screen, the devastation binding us in a way words never could. The rift between us, the plans for retribution, all faded in the face of such loss. But as reports rolled in, Westerners slaughtered abroad, prisoners executed to deter further attacks. My anger flared, not at Mom, but at those who'd dared strike so viciously. Then came news of Dad's prison. Deemed safe at first, it wasn't spared. Every Western prisoner had been killed. Mom's face went ashen. She collapsed to the floor, gasping, tears streaming as she mourned a man I couldn't bring myself to grieve. She stayed the night, and in the morning, over coffee, the TV droned with more reports attacks, chaos, and a leader's voice, taut with barely restrained fury, addressing the nation. That day, something shifted. The need for connection, for someone to share the weight of the world's collapse, outweighed our distrust. We talked for hours, my accusations sharp, her denials crumbling under the truth. It was raw, ugly, sometimes cruel, but laced with moments of clarity, even tenderness. She'd been startled that morning, seeing me in my short nightgown and panties, my body undeniably that of a young woman. She said nothing until the haunting wail of bagpipes filled the broadcast, a tribute to the fallen. Then she broke, pulling me into her arms, her tears mingling with mine as we wept for the dead, for the world, maybe even for us. Mom moved in that week, her suitcase a quiet surrender to the fragile bridge we were building. Slowly, we began to understand each other not as enemies, but as two people scarred by the same past, groping towards something new. I kept working with Logan, who'd found her brother safe, while Mom took a job at a nearby office. The wounds were still there, tender to the touch, but in the shadow of so much loss, we found a way to coexist, to listen, to heal, one hesitant step at a time. As my body continued to evolve, my curves filled out my bust, hips, and backside, taking on a softness that felt like a quiet victory. Mom and I grew closer, our bond deepening through shared moments, swapping clothes, laughing during beauty shop appointments, strolling through town arm in arm. The despair that had once clung to me, born of a childhood shadowed by neglect and an oppressive father, began to dissolve. I saw Mom in a new light, not through the lens of youthful anger, but as a woman trying to rebuild what we'd lost. By my senior year, the last traces of my former self had faded. What remained was a small, inconsequential nub, a reminder of a body that no longer fit. I yearned to be complete, to shed that final piece of the past. One evening, as we chopped vegetables for dinner, Mom asked, "How much will it cost, Harper?" I braced for her to balk when I told her the price, but she just nodded. "When school's out, we should make you whole. Who do we call?" "We can't afford that," I said, my voice trembling with excitement. "Let me handle it," she said firmly. "Who do we call?" I gave her the name, and 2 days after classes ended, I underwent the surgery. After a brief hospital stay, I was home, healing slowly. For nearly 2 months, I moved gingerly, my gait awkward, but when the pain faded, so did the sense of pretense. I wasn't masquerading anymore. I was Harper, fully and irrevocably. Mom treated me as her daughter from the start, our connection tightening through those quiet weeks of recovery. We'd sit together, sharing stories over tea, her warmth filling spaces I'd thought would always be empty. That fall, in the first term of my senior year, life felt steady until the doorbell rang one evening. I was stirring a pot on the stove, Mom peeling carrots, when I called, "I'll get it." Wiping my hands on my apron, I opened the door and froze. My father stood there, alive, smirking. Shock sent me stumbling back, crashing into a side table. Mom rushed in, her scream piercing the air. "Skylar," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Where's that worthless son of ours? And who's this broad?" "Brooklyn," Mom gasped, her face pale. "You're dead. The news said all Westerners were killed." "Can I come in?" he asked, ignoring her. "Nice place, Riley, sharing expenses." "This is Harper's place," Mom said, steadying herself. "I live here with her." "You can't come in," I snapped, finding my voice. "You're not welcome. Go." "Is that you, Reagan?" His smirk widened as he pushed past me. "Always knew you were strange. Still in dresses, huh?" "Gotta say, you're cute. I'll give you that." "Why are you here?" Mom demanded. "For my money," he said, his tone darkening. "Hope you didn't spend it all, Riley. That'd make me real unhappy." "I spent it," Mom said, her voice firm. "Trying to get you out of that jail." "Jail?" He laughed, cold and hollow. "I was never in jail, honey. They need guys like me. I fix things, move what they need. I was never in danger. Now, my money." I sank onto the couch, grabbing my phone. With trembling fingers, I dialed 911, hit send, and left it on the table, the line open. "You barge into my home making demands?" I said, standing taller. "How'd you even find us?" 812. "Willow isn't exactly public, and my name's Harper now." "Easy as pie, girlie," he sneered. "Took me 10 minutes. "Leave," I said, my voice steel. "Don't come back." "I want my money," he growled, turning to Mom. "And you're gonna tell me where it is, or I'll be mad." "Go to hell, Brooklyn," Mom spat. His fist shot out, striking her mouth. Blood bloomed as she crumpled, gasping. He raised his arm again, but the door burst open. 2 burly cops stormed in, pinning him in seconds. One dragged him to the squad car, while the other checked on us. "You ladies okay?" "I'm fine," I said, helping Mom up. "She needs a doctor. I'll take her." A month later, Dad was charged with espionage, tied to the same forces behind the horrors Mom and I had watched unfold on TV. Mom's lip healed, and when she was settled back home, she revealed the truth. She'd stashed nearly $20 million, money Dad had amassed through bribery, extortion, and funneling goods to hostile regimes. I was floored, but she shrugged it off, saying she'd keep enough for our comfort and donate the rest to families of the firefighters and police lost in the tragedy. A year later, I'm a registered nurse, my days filled with purpose. Mom still works at her office job, and she started dating, her smile brighter than I've ever seen. I'm thinking about it too, but for now, I'm content whole, at peace, and finally home in my own skin. As I stood in the hospital corridor, the antiseptic scent sharp in my nose, I felt the weight of Logan's words from years ago settle over me like a quiet truth. Anger is an ugly thing to carry around all the time, Harper. It can consume you and serves no purpose other than revenge. She'd been right, and I'd spent too long proving it. The fire of retribution that once drove me had burned out, leaving behind a life I'd built with Mom, a life of shared laughter, quiet evenings, and a bond I never thought possible. My work as a nurse filled me with purpose, each patient a reminder of resilience, of second chances. Mom was thriving, her office job steady, her new romance bringing a glow to her face. I was even considering dating, letting myself imagine a future where love wasn't just a dream. But the past, it seemed, wasn't done with us. It started with a letter, slipped under my apartment door one humid summer morning. No stamp, no return address, just my name Harper in a scrawl that made my stomach twist. Inside was a single sheet, the words typed in stark black. You thought you could take everything and walk away. You don't get to win. No signature, but I knew. Dad, the man who'd haunted my childhood, who'd struck Mom and laughed at my existence, wasn't dead. He'd slithered out of the chaos, and now he was back, his shadow creeping into the life I'd fought to build. I didn't tell Mom at first. She was happy, planning a weekend getaway with her boyfriend, and I couldn't bear to shatter that. Instead, I went to Logan, who'd become my anchor since that first job at her store. Over coffee in her cluttered office, I showed her the letter. Her eyes narrowed, the same fierce protectiveness I'd seen years ago flaring up. He's not just after money this time, she said, her voice low. This is personal. You need to be careful, Harper. Careful, I said, my old defiance sparking. He's a coward. He'll slink away if I push back. Logan shook her head. He's not the same man you knew. Prison, betrayal, losing his empire. It changes people. He's got nothing left to lose, and that makes him dangerous. Her words stuck with me, a warning I couldn't shake. I started noticing things. A car idling too long outside my apartment. A figure lingering in the hospital parking lot, always just out of sight. My shifts became a blur of vigilance, my eyes scanning for threats even as I bandaged wounds or checked charts. I bought a small can of pepper spray, kept it in my purse, and started locking my doors religiously, something I'd never bothered with before. But the fear wasn't just for me. Mom was vulnerable, blissfully unaware, and I couldn't let her be caught in his crosshairs. I finally told her, sitting her down one evening after dinner. Her face went pale, the carrot she was peeling forgotten in her hand. He's alive, she whispered, her voice trembling. After everything, he's still here. We'll handle it, I said, trying to sound stronger than I felt. Together, she nodded, but the spark in her eyes dimmed. The next day, she called the bank, confirming the donated millions were untouchable, funneled to the families of the fallen first responders. But the money we'd kept enough for our modest comfort was still in an account Dad might know about. We need to move it, she said, somewhere he can't find. We opened a new account, transferred the funds, and hired a private investigator recommended by Logan. His name was Marcus, a gruff man with a scar across his cheek and a no-nonsense demeanor. He dug into Dad's trail, uncovering fragments of a life I barely recognized. Dad hadn't just escaped the prison massacre, he'd orchestrated it, cutting deals with foreign contacts to secure his freedom while others died. He'd been moving through the underworld ever since, a ghost trading in secrets and violence. Marcus warned us he was in town, holed up in a cheap motel, and he wasn't alone. "He's got muscle," Marcus said. "Marcus, 2 guys, ex-cons. They're watching you both." The news hit like a punch. This wasn't just a grudge, it was a hunt. I started varying my routes to work, checking my rearview mirror, my heart racing at every unfamiliar face. Mom stopped going out alone, her boyfriend staying over more often, a quiet sentinel in our shaken world. But the tension was suffocating, and I knew we couldn't live like this forever. One night, after a double shift, I came home to find my apartment door ajar. My pulse spiked, the pepper spray cold in my hand as I nudged the door open. The living room was untouched, but a single photo lay on the coffee table, a grainy shot of me and Mom at the beauty shop, laughing, oblivious. On the back, in that same scrawl, "Time's up." I called Marcus, then Mom, who was safe at her boyfriend's. Marcus arrived within the hour, his jaw tight. "He's escalating," he said. "We need to draw him out on our terms." The plan was risky, but I was done hiding. Marcus suggested using the money as bait, leaking word through his contacts that Mom was moving a large sum to a new bank. We'd stage a transfer, set a trap, and let the police handle the rest. Mom hated the idea, her fear palpable. But I convinced her. "He'll never stop unless we end this," I said. She agreed, her hand squeezing mine, and for the first time, I saw not just fear in her eyes, but trust. The setup took days. Marcus coordinated with the police, who agreed to stake out the bank. We spread the rumor, and sure enough, Marcus's sources confirmed Dad had taken the bait. The morning of the transfer, I drove Mom to the bank. My stomach knotted, but my resolve ironclad. We walked inside, her arm linked with mine, playing our parts, 2 women handling a routine transaction. The police were hidden, their presence a faint reassurance. Minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. Then I saw him. Dad strode through the bank's glass doors, flanked by 2 men, their bulk unmistakable. His eyes locked on us, a predator's grin spreading across his face. My heart thudded, but I held his gaze, refusing to flinch. "Riley," he called, his voice cutting through the hum of the lobby. "You didn't think you could hide forever, did you?" Before Mom could respond, the police surged forward, shouts echoing as they tackled his men. Dad lunged, faster than I expected, grabbing my arm and yanking me toward him. Pain shot through my wrist, but I twisted, spraying the pepper spray directly into his eyes. He roared, staggering back, and in that split second, a cop slammed him to the ground, cuffs snapping around his wrists. Mom clung to me, sobbing as the chaos settled, the bank now a blur of uniforms and stunned onlookers. Dad was gone, this time for good, charged, not just with assault, but with a litany of crimes tied to his shadowy dealings. The police found evidence in his motel room, plans to target us, contacts for hired muscle, even a ledger detailing his role in the prison break. He'd been a linchpin in a network that thrived on chaos, and now that network was crumbling, thanks to the trail he'd left. In the weeks that followed, Mom and I rebuilt our rhythm, though the scars of fear lingered. We moved to a new apartment, a fresh start with brighter walls and a view of the park. I kept nursing, finding solace in the steady pulse of helping others. Mom's relationship deepened, her boyfriend proposing one quiet evening over dinner. She said yes, and I cried, happy for her in a way I never thought I'd be. But the biggest change was in me. Logan's words had been a beacon, guiding me away from the anger that once defined me. I'd let go of revenge, choosing instead to protect the life I'd built, the love I'd found with Mom, the strength I'd discovered in myself. One evening, as I walked home from the hospital, a woman caught my eye at a cafe, her smile warm as she glanced up from her book. I hesitated, then walked over, introducing myself. Her name was Lila, and as we talked, The world felt a little lighter, a little more open. The past would always be there, a shadow in the corners of my story, but it no longer held me. I was Harper nurse, daughter, woman, and for the first time, I was free to write my own ending, one where anger had no place, and hope was more than enough.